We accurately predicted Republican Kelly Armstrong to win the North Dakota House seat with 60% of the vote. We predicted correctly by reviewing polling and looking at the voting history of the state. The results of the House race were not surprising. The 2018 election served as an indicator of the state's opinions regarding the presidency. The president's approval was used in order to accurately predict the victory of Armstrong. The higher the president's approval rating, the better his party performs in congressional elections. For the Senate race, we accurately predicted Republican Kevin Cramer to defeat Democratic incumbent Heidi Heitkamp with 55% of the vote. We predicted correctly by observing the forecast of the election and reviewing the weakness of the incumbent and quality of her challenger. It was no surprise that the seat flipped, because the state voted for President Trump with a large margin in 2016. The seat was key for Republicans to retain the Senate. Heidi Heitkamp was viewed as the Democrats' most vulnerable senator. A tool that can explain Cramer's victory is presidential visits. Trump rallied in North Dakota 3 times in support of the congressman in an effort to energize the Republican base.
The results from North Dakota's House and Senate elections in 2018 were consistent with each other, in which both nominations were Republican men and neither were incumbents. As for the rest of the nation, the results in the Senate were consistent as Republicans won the state and nation. On the other hand, the Senate overthrew a previously Democratic candidate, and the Senate held on to their Republican majority. The House election for North Dakota diverged from the nation, as they voted in a Republican, and the nation flipped the House to the Democrats. North Dakota became a Republican trifecta following the 1994 elections, when the Republican Party took control of the state Senate and retained control of the state House. Heitkamp's office strayed away from the historically Republican state, so the results of the 2018 election returned to the state to its historically Republican ties. Other than an incumbent losing, our Senate race wasn't necessarily an outlier because it wasn't a close race, and North Dakota was predominantly in support of Trump. Therefore, it made sense that Republican Cramer would win over the highly exposed Democrat Heitkamp. As for the House race, it wasn't an outlier either. It was a solid win by Republican Armstrong in a red state, and Armstrong won significantly by 24 points. For the nation going forward, the Republicans gained a seat in the Senate after incumbent Heidi Heitkamp lost to Cramer, and the Republicans kept control of the House seat. Since North Dakota only has one House seat for their one district, the state as a whole doesn't have a huge impact in general on the way House seats change between parties. In the Senate election, Heitkamp was an exposed candidate because she won her 2012 election by just 1 point. At that point, North Dakota was starting to look to the Republican Party for positive change after many years of Democrat representation in the Senate. This exposure put Heitkamp in a vulnerable position to lose the 2018 election, and ultimately, Cramer came out on top, flipping his Senate seat in the Republicans' favor. As for the House election, there's no incumbent running in this race, therefore neither candidate had any of the advantages that come with incumbency. That being said, both candidates had to prove to voters that they were quality candidates and appeal to the median voter. Republican Armstrong had an advantage on Democrat Schneider because his policy stances were more in line with North Dakota's, and North Dakota is considered a red state in general after nominating President Trump in 2016.